You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land, and thank you for coming out and listening to The Real Short Box. My name is Donald, and I would like to reintroduce a very special someone that was with us from the very beginning, took a sabbatical, and now he's back and better than ever. I think he's got some robotic parts now, maybe a metal penis, I'm not sure. But we're talking about Jarrett here. Jarrett, say hello.
Woo! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, everybody. Jarrett's become a wrestler. Whoa. Calm down, Jarrett. Sorry. Yeah, Jarrett is back. Sorry, third person talk. Always a bad sign. Yeah, I am back in California. Not in beautiful Southern California, but in natural Northern California. But I'm more importantly, I'm back home at the Real Short Box. And that's what matters.
It's good to have you, sir. Good to have you.
It's good to be had.
And the best part about doing a communication thing from a long distance is that neither one of us has to wear pants. So that's great.
Totally pantsless right now. Cyborg penis is flowing.
It's just made out of tinfoil, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually just tinfoil.
And it's so your old radio get reception. I get it.
Modern healthcare.
Yeah, that'll be me next year. Yeah.
So
all right, well,
I'm to understand we're going to talk a little bit about comic book character history, right?
We are, yeah. You and I are going to be doing some little side projects. We're going to be talking about comic book character history, where we're going to spotlight a particular character or characters, talk about them a little bit, and kind of catch people up. One of the ones that you and I both thought of, which I think was pretty cool, was especially with the upcoming movie, was the master of replication.
Tasking?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say the master of tasking.
The master of replication, the master of tasking, the tasking of the masters. So that would be the Taskmaster.
The Taskmaster himself. Yeah. The funny thing is, if you really think about it, too, that character, I remember, he was around in Marvel growing up as a kid.
The way I was introduced to him was just through the Marvel Universe handbooks. I used to go, those were my Bibles, and I used to go through all the characters, and I always thought he was really badass looking because he had the skull suit, he had all the weapons, which I didn't realize, which we'll talk about, played into what his special ability is. But I would say about 6-7 years ago, he had a super resurgence. Like, people caught up and started realizing how cool Taskmaster was. And he was showing up in books, and then he was showing up in cartoons. I know he was on one of the Spider-Man cartoons as like one of the main villains. So,
yeah,
he's getting his due. And now, as we were saying, yeah, he's going to be premiering. I believe it's almost 99% confirmed that Taskmaster is going to be, if not the main villain, he's going to be one of the villains in the new Black Widow film coming out in 2020.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I thought definitely excited about that because I'm going to be honest, as far as like strong female characters in the Marvel Universe, movie-wise, I really personally felt they shit the bed with Captain Marvel. I know a lot of people loved it, and that's great, and I appreciate that, but I just like the whole spy realm that the Black Widow kind of rolls inside of it, and I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I couldn't, and I'm if I was to pick, I'd probably, just from childhood side, a little bit more on, like, I'm more of a Marvel fan, but I'm definitely a DC fan as well. But I watched Captain Marvel, and I'd been waiting for Kree and Skrull to battle each other forever, and that movie, I just, I got the Disney Plus, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally see this. I got kids, I don't got the time, but I had the time, and I couldn't. I was just bored. Like, there was a lot of action going on that looked cool, but it was just so empty. I just could not give a shit. Whereas with Black Widow, yeah, we're gonna have. Looks like they're gonna bring in some Soviet super soldiers. We're gonna have Red Guardian. It looks like we're gonna have Taskmaster. Like, it looks like, yeah, I would definitely go the spy realm, especially if they can keep it to something like how like Civil War, Captain America Civil War, not Civil War, Winter Soldier. How that was
Yeah.
kind of like an espionage like thriller with superheroes in the background. That's what I'm hoping Black Widow is.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they make it like Captain America Winter Soldier, which I think personally is the best Marvel film, hands down. If they make it like that, they can just print money, which
Completely, yeah.
they kind of already do. But I think they can reignite some passion in the Marvel universe, because right now every fanboy is on edge because everybody is talking about how there's superhero what do they call them?
Fatigue.
Fatigue. Yeah,
Fatigue.
everybody's fatigued by superheroes. People don't want to see them anymore. The Marvel universe is done. They don't have any more stories. They've told the biggest story they have, and I think if they go into these smaller, more personal stories, they might be able to carve out a nice little niche of these kind of side stories for these characters, which I think is important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if they go kind of with these more, obscure characters where they like Guardians of the Galaxy is the prime example. Nobody was jumping on board for that as far as like knowing it was going to be the success it was.
Right.
So, we've got movies. I think, what is it? Is it phase 5 we're going into, or phase 4?
Oh, phase 4.
So phase 4 is going to be very telling, especially with like the Eternals. And like my prediction is it's going to be like, instead of where everybody's just on board for everything and just loving everything, there's going to be a real split. Like, I think some stuff is going to be huge and surprising. And some stuff is just going to, like, they're almost like Inhumans. Like, it's just going to go away real fast.
Yeah, those guys, speaking of those guys, they kind of just, after that TV series, they really just disappeared. Like, Marvel just went, okay, nothing from them. Let's retract everything Disney was hiding. It's like, oops, our bad.
Yep, and I think they're already in talks to, like, it sounds weird to say reboot, but in a sense, like, reintroduce them in a different way, which might be, and I could just be making this up, but it might be through when Marvel starts doing X-Men stuff, they're going to incorporate Inhumans into the mutants and all that.
It would make more sense for me if it was the Fantastic Four, but I totally understand why they would do it, because for a while Marvel was trying to make the Inhumans their New Mutants because they didn't want to put out X-Men books, Disney anyway, because Fox still had the rights, and it was causing this baby fight that they were doing, which was completely stupid, and it failed. I mean, the Inhumans are not the X-Men; they're nowhere near the popularity of the X-Men. Their characters just aren't as, I want to say, original, or as there's only so much
accessible. They're not like super accessible. They're
no.
The powers are kind of weird, which, I mean, I love the Inhumans, but like they're not, to me, they never were as, I think the whole alien, species living on the moon and stuff like that kind of really separated them.
Yeah. Well, I think they need to go weird like they did with Guardians. I don't think they should try to go grand, like they would with X-Men or something like that, or the Avengers. I think they had to just try to make it a quirky, weird type story,
Yeah,
I think
totally.
Even if we did like a time travel thing or something, I think that could be fun. I don't know, something different to make the Inhumans stand out. They just need a hell of a writer to come in and say, okay, I'm gonna write the script and it's gonna be amazing.
Or even just give them a simple task and then have them master it. Oh, wait, is that a segue back to Taskmaster?
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, Taskmaster. So, I know you were looking up a little bit. Avengers 195 was his first appearance.
Correct. And now this goes into what we've always debated, especially, you, me, and Kevin and everybody, about the cameo, whether the cameo or the full is the one you want. And I think we all agree the first full is, that's where the bucks are.
Yeah, unless you have the cameo and you really want people to buy that, then you push that one.
Exactly.
People that sell on Instagram and eBay and stuff, you'll see that, and they'll be like, no, it's his true first appearance. And it's like, okay, buddy, I get it.
And the thing is with this one, so as you were saying, Avengers 195 came out in 1980, was the true first appearance / cameo of Taskmaster. He's on the last panel, like he's there, you fully see him. But what makes it so much better is for Avengers 196, which is the first full, is that they have him on the cover, like literally just him. That's it.
Yeah.
So
With the best line ever. He's pretty much singing, anything the Avengers can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
You know?
which we'll get into, which you know, anybody who doesn't know, the Taskmaster's ability, it's not really even a power. It's and you know, we'll get into the history of how he attained this power, but he can mimic anything he sees he can do. So if he sees and what eventually he would be doing is he'd watch videotape, you know, VHS back in the day, of course, then DVD, and now he can just stream it. But he would watch Daredevil doing tricks, doing ninjutsu and all this stuff. Then he can do ninjutsu. He could watch Iron Fist do his, you know, Kunlun karate, and then he can do it just as good. And the only limit was he was still human. So he couldn't, as far as I know, he couldn't, for instance, with Iron Fist, he could do all his karate, but he can't do the Iron Fist, you know?
I don't think that they ever mentioned this or not. I don't remember if they did, but once he starts to memorize a new hero, like for example, let's say he memorizes all of Daredevil's stuff. Once he does Daredevil and he starts to do Iron Fist, then can he recall Daredevil's? Or
he can keep I was looking at it, he can keep up like 6 at a time. But what happened? Yeah. So what happens though is it affects his memory. And so basically, just so we can get into it, he was introduced when he was first introduced. He was just introduced as a villain, and with this ability to mimic people's abilities. So he takes on, literally, I think in his first appearance, he takes on like all the Avengers and is beating them. And the only reason he loses is because they had their robot Jocasta, and because she was a robot and he couldn't really mimic her, and I think he also didn't really see any like footage of her. He didn't really study her, so she was able to kind of get in, you know, under the wire and beat him. So, but what we find out is that because once he was getting so much, like he was getting all this new popularity, like people are like saying that's a badass power, like to just be able to like be, you know, Captain America fighting style, Iron Fist style fighting style, Daredevil's fight, Black Knight's he could fight with Black. That was the thing too. He can mimic, if they had a weapon, he would be an expert swordsman, or the Billy Club. So like if you see him, he's got the original version had like a bow and arrow, so he could be like Hawkeye. He had a shield like Captain America. Mm-hmm. He had the Billy Club. So he was already like, he was just a tour de force of like badassness, which I think to me like appealed to any kid who's like, I want all the powers, or I want to do everything. And
all the greedy children out there.
Exactly. Well, that was me. I was a greedy kid. But I guess when they kind of retconned him because he was becoming so popular and he was this mystery character. Oh, and real quick, I got to say another like real big thing about him that was cool is he made his money by having a henchman school. He trained henchmen. So if like Hydra was going to hire like some new guys, you know, to be Hydra agents, they would call up the Taskmaster Academy and be like, hey, can you send us like 6 new recruits? And he'd be like, yeah, all right, I got some guys for you.
Yeah, that was like his bread and butter. He was a mercenary hired as a training instructor by various criminal organizations.
Right.
You know? And then I think at one point then he even did work for the Avengers Academy or something like that. He was training agents or for S.H.I.E.L.D, I think.
He did that. Well, the first time I remember him doing something for like the good guys was he was do you remember that story where pretty much the introduction of John Walker, who later becomes U.S. agent?
Mm-hmm.
And they were training him to be the new Captain America because the other Captain America went rogue and blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, you know, you got to get good with the shield if you're going to be Captain America, like obviously, you know.
Right.
So they brought in, because he was in prison, I think, they brought in the Taskmaster to train John Walker how to do the shield. And there's this great, one of the issues is literally like 7 panels of Taskmaster showing the katas like of Captain America's shield throwing, and it was
Speak-
awesome. And then
Speaking of John Walker, we're going to be seeing him soon too in a Disney Plus series, if I recall.
yeah, it's gonna be the Winter Soldier Falcon one, I think,
Yeah, I believe so.
played by Kurt Russell's kid. I forget the guy's name.
I believe it's Purvis Russell.
it's Dirt Russell.
There you go.
But so he was training him. So yeah, and then I think he did become part of the initiative and all that stuff. But so I was looking into his history. So they retconned him as far as like they created that his memory, because he was always like a mystery guy, and they created that his whole history was his memory was like shoddy, because what it was is actually that his name. This is the best name too. It's hang on, Tony Masters.
Yeah.
Which sounds either like a porn star from the 70s or like a really jobber wrestler from the 80s. Tony Masters.
I see him as somebody that's on TV on Saturday afternoon or 2 or 3 in the morning, trying to sell me like real estate or how to get into the business.
So yeah, exactly. He's like a Tony Robbins. There you go. I'm thinking Tony Robbins too. So supposedly he was born with the ability to duplicate the movements of others through brief observation. But this was the cool thing. So I think it started like he said he was a kid and he saw a cowboy star roping like a steer, and then he realized he could do it. And then he saw like a basketball player, an NBA basketball player in basketball, he could do it. But then what it was is he watched a professional diver dive, and he did the same thing and did like the perfect dive, but then he almost drowned because he didn't know how to swim yet, because he didn't watch how the guy could swim.
That's funny.
So it was very specific.
Oops.
But I guess when they retconned him, they had him join. He's actually his origins is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and he was on a mission, and there was a Nazi scientist who was dying in the field, and he had in his hand a syringe of they were trying to replicate the super soldier serum.
Yeah, the SS Hopstrumerfer.
Exactly. And before he died, I guess the doctor was like, "This is what it is," and Mr. Masters, before he was going to sell some real estate, injected himself with it, and it boosted or gave him his ability to like an insane degree. But it messed up his memory, and he wouldn't know who he was. So the more things he would memorize, the less of his past, or the more of his past would just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was his wife, I think her name was Mercedes, who was also a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, decided that he would make the perfect double agent. So supposedly Taskmaster, from the get-go, literally from his first appearance in Avengers, was actually supposed to be a double agent for S.H.I.E.L.D., but he didn't know it because he was that programmed with the serum.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I thought that was interesting, but then they didn't like abandon it, but then they realized that like, well, if he keeps forgetting it, then he's just going to be Taskmaster. So why don't we just keep him as Taskmaster, which is pretty much what they've done.
Right. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they've got some cool villains, don't get me wrong. What's his name? Was it Brimstone? Brimstone? No, it wasn't Brimstone. That's DC. Oh, shoot, what's his face? From Captain America.
Crossbones?
Thank you, Crossbones. I'm wondering, since I think this Black Widow movie, isn't it supposed to be a prequel?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a prequel.
I wonder if Crossbones is going to be in it. If like he's going to be part of anything in it, because for some reason when I think of the Taskmaster, I always think of Crossbones, and I feel like that they would run in the same circles.
Well, funny you should say that, because remember I said he did the henchman school? One of the people he trained was Crossbones. Like that's how cool they made it. They actually were like, look, he's got some successful recruits. Like, he's a good teacher. It's like, you want to go to this guy's academy. He knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the, if we were like, as young actors, we wanted to go to Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg. These young henchmen, they want to go to the Taskmaster Academy, and learn how to be a method henchman and work for the right people. He'll get
Right.
you work. He's like one of those people. He's like, yeah, you take my on-camera class, and then I get you work with Hydra.
Yeah. Why not? I like Hydra.
But
Cool.
I think the last I saw him recently, as far as in the comics, was, which I liked, is they brought him back to just being a straight up mercenary, and he was helping the Black Ant. There was the story in the current Spider-Man book where Kraven the Hunter was trying to get as many animal themed characters, like villains or heroes, so he could hunt them. And he hired Taskmaster and Black Ant to kidnap them all.
Was Grizzly in there? Please tell me Grizzly was in there.
I think he was, yeah. I mean, they went like deep. They got like Walrus, Scorpion, like they got like everybody.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet. Because I'm way behind, but I read the volume right before it. But in those volumes, they're all these little intermittent segments with Taskmaster and Black Ant where they're drugging and kidnapping the guys.
Oh,
That's cool.
Yeah, I need to read this. I think.
Yeah, the current Spider-Man's great. Actually, it reminds me of like old school, just simple Spider-Man fighting bad guys, having trouble in his life. God, the same guy who wrote the what is it? The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. God, what is his name? I'm terrible. I don't know. I know Kirkman was doing.
There's a Nick Spencer was writing something at one point.
Spencer. Yeah, Nick Spencer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, he's a good writer. He's solid. I always felt though that he did better with team books than he did individuals, but it sounds like maybe he's got his groove now when it comes to somebody like Spider-Man.
Well, he's got his groove because I think he puts in a lot of the characters he was already writing, for instance, you're totally right. Like Superior Foes was a team book of villains and it was great. And he has them all in Spider-Man book too. Like you could tell he's like, I'm gonna keep writing those guys. So like Boomerang, who is the leader of the Superior Foes, is Peter Parker's roommate. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
However that works, I don't know, but that sounds cool.
No, it's good.
I'm in on that. That sounds great. I'm gonna check that out. So, any other thing we want to mention about Taskmaster?
No, just that you definitely want to pick up. They're still affordable, I think, as far as Avengers 195, 196. Definitely books
sort of.
Pick up.
196 now. It at conventions, I was seeing it go for about $450.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of blasted through the roof. So
that's right, especially since he's pretty much confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know about 195, but I know 196 was about $450. But again, that's at convention, so you can probably still pick it up for $200 on eBay, maybe even a little less if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But you're really going to have to be patient, do some digging and stuff, and maybe be even a little aggressive at those last minute eBay sniping purchases, so to speak.
Yeah.
But my hat's off to David Michelini and George Perez for creating the character. It's a really cool idea that I think everybody thought of in the back of their head at one point in time, but just never put pen to page to do it.
And I didn't even realize that Michelini, because I was looking at that. I was like, oh, he also co-created Venom, Carnage, War Machine, Scott Lang, Ant-Man. Like that dude was like all over, like that guy's got some like a good roster of original characters he created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course he's given it all to Marvel, but hats off to him. And Perez, of course, for the design. I mean, he's a super badass design. Like the skull mask, the hood, the cloak thing.
It looks ridiculous, but it works so well.
Totally.
It works on so many levels. He looks like a cloaked ninja pirate on the high seas that sails around with Conan the Barbarian in plunders and pillages.
And just slathered in weapons.
Yeah, just slathered in. He's like, I'm gonna hold some of your weapons, Conan, but I'll have some of my own too. I just can't let go of all these weapons. I'm gonna just carry around all of them.
Well, they did a revamp. I think he's back to the Conan pirate costume. But do you remember he had a mini series and they did a revamp of his costume. Like it was like a manga series by the team or the guy Udon, like Udon Noodles.
Yeah.
And and they made it more like a tactical. They still kept the skull type like cloak hood thing, but no cape, and they made it more like a tactical suit, and it looked really cool. Like it was actually a cool series, and they even like kind of revamped. Like they did some cool things of like they had it so he could like shoot out these like laser webs, so he could do like Spider-Man stuff because he could watch Spider-Man and still kind of mimic the agility.
Mhm.
That was the thing that the serum did, is it increased his ability. So he did have super agility and reflexes and stuff like that, but he doesn't have like super strength.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That seems fair. Although I feel like if he did get the the super soldier serum, all bets would be off for anybody, really.
Total. Oh yeah, he'd be done. Well, they were
Yeah.
saying, I was reading, and I think I kind of remember this, but in the Siege story, remember that with Dark Reign and all that stuff, he was taking on there. There was like this epic battle with everybody fighting everybody, and like was it like Osborn's government people and Thunderbolts and all that stuff, Dark Avengers. But Taskmaster was fighting both Captain Americas and beating them. He was fighting, I think, the Bucky Cap and Steve Rogers Cap.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says something right there about the character, and I'm very excited to get to see him in the Black Widow movie when that comes out next year after. I'm not sure, to be honest.
I think 2020. I don't know when in 2020.
Barbara Walters ought to introduce it then.
Yeah. And this is 2020.
All right, Jarrett. Well, that was great. I think we're going to call it on this one. We've got plenty more of characters to work with over time. Please reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram. We're on there. We are also on Twitter. You can listen to our podcasts on iTunes, on Google Play Music, on Spotify, on Spreaker, and a few others, actually.
And also, you can go back, and if you ever want to just re-listen to a lot of the older episodes, too, and just kind of catch up on stuff, because I know we got a lot of new listeners. YouTube. We got a ton of them on YouTube.
Yes, we do. We got a ton of video. Some of them we just do little shorts and stuff. Sometimes we're at conventions. We do video of it. We recently did an interview with Malibu Comics creators. That's on there. And,
that was awesome.
We did a 3-hour long live stream from Spiro's Heroes in Canoga Park, Chatsworth area in California. And we're going to be doing some more down the line with We Can Be Heroes' his comic shop and Spiro's Heroes. So we've got a lot of exciting things planned. So we're hoping that, if you can come out, maybe we'll actually see you at the comic shop.
That is true. We will see you straight up at the comic shop. Get there, get in, get on the ground floor of this hot new topic. Wait, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Hot Topic. We sell shirts.
Sorry, that was my. Yeah, we are sponsored by Hot Topic now. No, we're not. It's good to be back.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.